Greetings everyone, and welcome to the Update 1.59 review. So, not an April update, but a May update featuring 4 cars, a new track for Sophie, and some not quite new escapes. So, anyhow, with this update, this review, let's get right in. And that fascinating bit of audio is the Honda CR-V eHEV X Black Edition. Surely that's gonna max out someone's character limits. Anyway, another SUV added to the game, and much to the dismay of folks, another CVT car, which means no engine swapping. But for the low price of 46,000 credits, let's see what can be done to this thing. So as far as wide bodies go, well, kinda, sorta. These panels is as close as you're gonna get to doing any of that. Now, as far as other customizations, of course, for the front end, you've got quite the extreme splitter there, and some alternation there, but the splitter though, that's quite the part. For the sides there, you get a panel that's kind of similar to what's on the Toyota CHR. I think it's a badge removal there. For the rear, you can definitely remove badges, but you can also have this massive diffuser here, so this car certainly already tops the CHR in the extreme stuff you can do. That includes the wing, which there's this, and then it gets more extreme with this, so you can definitely go crazy with the exterior modifications there, even if you can't do so much with the engine. But what about as a car that drives? Well, surprisingly, it's actually fun to throw around corners here. I was expecting somewhat of a slog there, something boring and uninteresting, but much to my surprise, it's actually decent. You can actually throw it around, and it's actually fun. So, that's a pretty cool fun thing to drive around there. It's fun. It's weird, but in a fun kind of way. And I'd argue that's just as a Gran Turismo right there. And that is the very distinctly peppy noises of the Suzuki Carry KC12. So, very interesting look here. Not much in the terms of colors, but obviously when you have what you can do, the livery editor, doesn't matter too much. But it's a very interesting vehicle there, as we will soon see. So, for the very reasonable price of 600 credits, let's see what can be done to this peppy little thing here. So as far as wide bodies go there, you can sort of kind of do that as well there. Now, this does affect the options in which you can do with this thing in GT Auto, so just beware of that. And speaking of those, we're just going to do this by default here. So with these parts, you got this interesting little splitter, maybe a little bit of bumper there for the front. For the sides, you have these interesting body panels that fill in a lot of that section. So it's actually pretty intriguing there for visual customization as far as that goes. So, as for Type B, it seems more just the default part. I'm not seeing anything too different from what the default gives you. As for the rear, this is where the fun begins, because you can have this on there. I mean, it is a K truck, so of course, and this as well. I just love this. I cannot think of another title that, as a base game, allows you to do nonsense like this to your vehicle. That That's wonderful. And then as for the wing, well, it's technically more the roof, but you can either have this aerial, this little splitter lip, or this honking thing here. So I love it. This is going to be a vehicle I'm going to have a whole lot of fun with. And as for the driving portion of that fun, well, it's certainly that as well. This is just going to be a riot to have fun with, I sense. Obviously, this is the only bit of driving I've done. It's nothing competitive. It's nothing super racing, all that. But just in this little bit of driving there, it's a wonderful thing to throw around. It's even a little oversteering in some cases, which more often than not, that tends to add to the fun there. You know, that means it's a little playful, as some would say. You know, you can do stuff with it. So those distinct tones come from the Ferrari 812 Superfast. So this car is kind of an evolution of the F12 that's also in the game. And at least looking at the rear window, I can certainly see some of that, as well as the silhouette, things like that. Obviously, a big bunch of color options, as you would expect from a modern Ferrari there for maximum customization. A lot of good ones to look at, to be honest. Pick it out, whatever your heart's content. So, we looked at all the color options and things there. Let us go for the interesting price point of 550 credits. And let's see what stuff can be done to this. So as far as wide bodies are concerned, well, you can definitely go a bit more crazy with this, as you can see with the fender flares there. So there's definitely a case of making this look a little bit more racy than before. And as for custom parts, the front end, well, it sort of has a splitter too there. So you can kind of do those two things. Nothing for the sides, but as for the rear, you've got this interesting diffuser piece. It seems like it's a one piece there. Kind of goes over the plexiglass with the exhausts as well. As far as the rear wing, we've got the spoiler, and tell me if you've seen this rear wing before, or if it looks familiar. Oh, PD. Ever so sneaky with what they do. And that's just this car. Wait till you see what they do with the other one. But of course, how does this thing drive? And on default setting, it's not terrible. It's definitely going to require a little bit more attention from you because it feels kind of much more front heavy. So it's a little bit easier to understeer this car out of corners if you're not really on it or paying attention. So there's definitely going to be moments where if you are paying attention, you'll be fine. If you try to drive it like another Ferrari that's a little easier, well, you get moments like that. So just be mindful. And that distinct roar comes from the Corvette C5 Z06. And interestingly, this is not from the same year as previous models of the Corvette. Not 2000, not from 2004, but from 2001. So I'm guessing it's the nearest one Pete you could find model. But this completes the Corvette lineup, and for 65,000 credits, let's see what you can do with this thing. So, as far as wide body goes, there's definitely some serious flaring you can do there. So, if you want to go about cosplaying as some of those early 2000s teams and their homegrown CO6 race cars, you could do that. Now, as far as custom parts, for front end, you've got this, which not all that interesting in default form, but in wide body form, it gets very interesting. For the sides, you just get some badge removal and these little additions here. So for the rear, you can remove these little parts, which is really interesting, and add this diffuser here, which only gets more interesting with the wide body. And then the rear wing, the moment you've all been waiting for. Never change, baby. I'd like to remind you, we haven't had an official Corvette racing car in quite some time, supposedly because of what happened with GT6. So to see this as an option, quite ballsy. As far as driving is concerned, the car's fun to drive. Well, it's not super modern car, spot on, amazing grip driving, but it's fun though. It's drivable. You can play around with it a bit. Obviously, I wasn't too concerned with trying to do slidey stuff, but it's not terrible. It's a fun car to throw around even in default setup, but there is some potential to really take it to the next level. As far as other additions, it's not too many to get excited about. There's an additional track for Sophie at Catalunya. Unfortunately, it's the dreadful chicane version, so not sure if you could be excited about that. And then Shooting the Perfect Square, a Scapes curation that, as far as I could tell, it just seems to be previous Scapes. Nothing really all that new or interesting. So, it's one thing if you're completely recent to the game, like you just got it and you're seeing this, then yeah, this is gonna feel very new to you. But if you've been playing the game for a while and you've been doing the Scapes for a while, it's not really all that interesting. So overall, this is the update where the cars definitely have taken priority here, and they're all good for one reason or another. So that's been this review. Pretty decent, more so for the cars than anything else. So if you like this review, then give it a like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for next month if there is another update when I do these. And I will see you folks in the next video.